come on in, take a seat, because today I'm coming to you with a special a Married at First Sight a video for season 16. But this is going to be talking about a no romance without finance. Yeah, we're going to be talking about love and money because it has come up a lot in this whole season. And so we're going to be talking about some of the practicalities of the expectations of both a Shaq and Kirsten. And this is going to give me an opportunity, you an opportunity to give Shaq and Kirsten some advice, just in case they may be watching these videos, y'all. They may be watching the videos. They may be dropping down in the comments. They may be reading what you're saying. So this is going to give us an opportunity to give them a little bit of auntie and uncle advice on when it comes to things like money. But we're going to have a little bit of a comprehensive discussion. And it's really going to be centered around the last scene that we saw when Kirsten said, buy me a house. That invoked a lot of conversation from not only should Shaq have to buy her a house, it also invoked conversation about can Shaq even afford a house, because we know he's got a PhD and Kirsten has a master's and a bachelor's, as she told us. And she's a real estate agent in a bad real estate market. So the question might be, should they or can they? The question isn't even about a should they. One of the questions be about a can they. Can Shaq even afford a Kirsten? This is going back to, if any of you guys have been watching all my videos, I know some of you have. Thank you so much. I appreciate y'all. We've been talking all a season long. Some of you joined the conversation maybe on episode 5 or 6 or different episodes. But if you are new to my channel and you haven't been here, one of the things that I spoke about in the very, very beginning was, even though Kirsten was picky, and I talk a lot about her pickiness, where it comes from, what it's based on. People hear a lot of that. But in the beginning of the season, I spoke a lot about I don't really have a lot of empathy and sympathy for Shaquille, because Shaquille got exactly what he asked for. I mentioned, and what I was saying was, these two are two peas in a pod. Just as picky as Kirsten is, and the type of man she wanted, 7 inches, 8 inches, buy me a house, all these types of things. And hey, and let me clear up this part too. I know that Kirsten didn't mean buy her that $2 million house, that exact house. But does she want a nice, big, expensive house? Yes, she does. Does she want to be living in the same house that she showed Shaq that her daddy bought her? No. Because if she was just talking about we can go buy a 2-bedroom house in the backwoods of Tennessee, then Shaq would have been like, okay, I get you that. But that's not what she was talking about. And when she was talking about buy her a house and buy her a car and buying push gifts, she was not talking about that 2-bedroom Shaq outhouse. And when I say Shaq, not a pun like Shaq, I'm talking about that 2-bedroom house that she took him to out there in the backwoods of Tennessee with no paved roads. Was the road even paved, people? Was the road paved, or was it a dirt road? That's what I want to know. Was the house on a foundation? Was it on a foundation, or was it on a trailer or some bricks? That's what I want to know. But anyway, we're going to get in that, because what I'm going to say about these two is a couple of things. One is they both ask for a whole lot, and they both aren't willing to do what they need to do to get what they're asking for. Here's what I'm setting up. I'm setting up that Shaq wanted arm candy. Shaq wanted arm candy, and he didn't want a little red and white peppermints that you can get at the 99-cent store, that type of candy. He wanted expensive Godiva chocolate. That's what he wanted. He wanted Ghirardelli's. He wanted, I don't know, what's another expensive, Ghirardelli's not that expensive, but Godiva chocolate. He wanted high-end chocolate, right? Because did you guys remember the video I did? I'm going to play it right now for anyone who didn't check my little video. It's only like 2 minutes. I'm going to play it of when I proved that Shaq wanted arm candy, that he was just as shallow as Kirsten in terms of looks and exterior check boxes he wanted. because during the matchmaking special, they had an opportunity to pair Shaq up with another woman. Her name was Jalissa. They wanted to pair her up with Jalissa. And it was Pastor Cal who stepped in and intervened and says, no, even though I like Jalissa, I think she's going to be too earthy for him. I know a lot of us are sitting out here talking about how we think Jasmine would be a good match for Shaq. I don't think so at the beginning. Could I change my mind now? Yeah, now that Shaq has been through the ringer, now that so-called Jasmine has gone out and fixed her teeth. But in the beginning of this season, if they would have paired Jasmine up directly with Shaq, he wouldn't have liked her. He wouldn't have liked her because he would have judged her by her teeth, because he even told what's her name? Kirsten in the beginning that he was a big teeth person and he didn't like it. He even asked Kirsten, you don't brush your teeth before you go to bed. You don't do this before you go to bed. You don't do this with your teeth. And she says, I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I don't do it. And he was grossed out and he was turned off by it. So I already know that he would have judged Jasmine in the beginning. But now that he knows Jasmine, he knows her heart, he knows she's a sweet person, plus she's got her teeth fixed, of course he'd be interested maybe possibly in a person like her. But that's why I don't have too much empathy for Shaq, because Shaq is just as shallow. But the problem is Shaq wanted Godiva chocolate, and its odds are Shaq doesn't have Godiva chocolate money because he's got a PhD or he's going to one. And I can pretty much say to a high degree of certainty that he probably didn't get all his degrees paid for. He could have got a scholarship to undergrad. He could have got a scholarship to, or he may have paid for his master's. He might have got a fellow scholarship for his PhD. I don't know. But somewhere wrapped up in all of this is some school debt. There's some school debt. He hasn't gone all these years of education and working and hasn't accumulated any school debt. He's got some. And he even said, I've got student loans. So how many student loans does he have? We don't know. And we're going to get into that when we start talking about no romance but finance, because we're really going to dig into it. But the question is going to be is, when Shaq developed his wish list of what he wanted, could he afford what he was asking for? And on the flip side, we're going to look at Kirsten, and when she was developing her list of what she wanted, was she anteing up enough in whatever degree, doesn't have to be money, in those other areas? Is she anteing up enough to even get what she wants? Or do we just have two picky and delusional people who have been put together? I actually believe that's what we have, people. I believe that we have two picky and two delusional people who have been joined together, and now they're talking about each other as if their expectations are too high of one another, but they both have very, very high expectations. So eventually at the end of this video, I'm going to do a little educational part when it comes to a no romance without finance, because if anyone is out here dating, we don't want them to be like the Kirstens and the Shaqs. Because this is not good if both of them don't realize where they are. And we're going to try to give them a little help on what they could do now moving forward if they really want this marriage to last and work out. Because as we can see, these experts ain't even really helping these people out here. We don't even see the experts giving any real advice. So all of my subscribers and viewers, are we going to be the experts? Are we going to be the Nicoles of the world? Nicole is up here slipping notes under the door. Well, if Nicole can slip some notes up under the door, you and me, we can get some advice down in these comments and tell these people what they need to do. If Nicole can be a quack therapist and a quack counselor, so can we. We're going to call ourselves the aunties and the uncles and the therapists for these married at first sight couples, because these experts are falling down on the job and they're not really giving no real or practical good advice for these people. And they want all the drama, but they're not offering no real help. And that's what we're going to be. Are we going to be the real help? But before we get to that, I'm going to refresh some memories and some people who have come in late to my channel. I'm going to play for you the video I did earlier in the season where I basically said that Shaq wanted armed candy. Let's take a look at that.
Director of Enrollment Services at Tennessee State University. Plus, he makes, designs, and sews these bow ties.
He's just a man of all trades.
He's kind of a Renaissance man. He's very serious about wanting a partner to go through life with.
I genuinely want my husband to be my best friend. Like I want to be the support for somebody. I want to be their safe space. Like I genuinely want that.
Someone to be on his arm and be part of work in the room when he's going to be representing the university, which he has to, and many, who is also educated, who is attractive. He can be picky, I gather. He wants someone who is also religious.
I would like for him to be spiritual.
And yet he also wants some traditional roles there, in terms of a woman who will take care of him.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that he meets the needs.
What's your preference?
About 7 to 8.
If this guy does not have the level of equipment you prefer, how are you going to react?
Hopefully he can make up for it in other areas.
I think Julissa is absolutely wonderful. However, here's the problem. While I think she is going to make an incredible wife, I don't think she is the kind of person that he wants. He tends to want someone who's a little more glamorous. I think she's just a little too earthy and creative.
She's got a kind of playfulness that I doesn't think really matches up to his kind of seriousness about life.
He wants someone who can accompany him to his events. I think that she would be happy doing that. She wants a man who's going somewhere.
Both want kids, both want to go to church, both love family, both pretty neat and care about how they look and how they present. These are two people going in the same direction, I think, with the same aspirations and goals.
Yeah.
Okay, there it is, people. There's the evidence. You see what I'm saying? Shaq wanted exactly what Kirsten is, but it seems to be now that Shaq can't afford Kirsten. Shaq can't afford Kirsten. He had a big list. He wanted a glamorous woman. He wanted a woman that's going to take care of his needs. He wanted a woman who was going to go around and accompany him to all his dates. He wanted arm candy. He wanted a woman to be on his arm. He wanted her to be intelligent and have a degree and have all these types of things. But now we're going to watch the new part that showed. Now he wants a woman that's going to go in 50-50. 50-50, if not more. Well, the two don't match up, people. The two don't match up. You can't want a glamorous, intelligent, body on point. You have all these expectations for the woman, but then what are you doing? You want her 50-50 on the money? No. So Shaq's going to have to do one or two things if he wants to move forward. He's either going to have to come up with some more money if he wants this woman who's going to stay at home, do nothing, take care of the house, take care of the kids, accompany to him all his executive things. He's going to have to come up with some more money, or he's going to have to do what everybody else always tells women they need to do, and he's going to need to settle for something else. He's going to need to maybe get a woman that maybe she isn't as beautiful, maybe she isn't as glamorous, maybe her body isn't as on point. Okay. Plus, he talks about how he likes to move around all the time with his career because he goes where the money is, because he works in education, and sometimes he can get a profession in another area really quick. Well, if you want a woman who can drop her career real fast and chase you around the country, which is okay, that means you need to be making enough money so that when she drops her career over here, it's not a problem going with you over there. Well, guess what? Kirsten has that career. She ain't really making no money doing real estate. And when she gets to another state, you know what she can do? She can take the state test over there in that state, and she can sell 1 or 2 houses a year over there. That's what she can do. So this is going to be the practicality of these little sessions we're going to start doing. No romance without finance, because Shaq can have everything he wants, but then he can't expect a woman to always be paying a 50-50. And he can't expect a woman, if she has a nice job making a lot of money, to be able to drop that career to follow him and go wherever he's going on his little trajectory of his career and education. A lot of people want things. But really, they don't want to pay the price to get what they want. And so that's why I really don't have a lot of empathy and sympathy for Shaq. Even though I may, make fun of Kirsten and say things about Kirsten, I also am very well aware that the things that Shaq was asking for, he was delusional. And he also didn't have everything he needed to take to afford the type of woman he was talking about he wanted. Let's be clear. But now we're going to move on to Miss Kirsten, because like I said, they both delusional. Now, what we know about Miss Kirsten is she definitely would love to be a stay-at-home wife, a stay-at-home mother, or a woman who makes some money here and there. But of course, she doesn't want all her money to be dependent on. Like she told Shaq, I want you to buy us a house, buy me push gifts, get me a car, or do these types of things. Sure, she'll make her little money on the side with real estate, bringing a little bit of, maybe $20,000 a year or something like that, selling one house a year, two houses a year. She can do that, but she nowhere near wants to be responsible for the majority or half of the bills. Absolutely not. And I'm okay with it. I'm okay with that too. But then we're going to talk about Miss Kirsten. She wants 7 to 8 inches. She wants them to be fine. She wants them to have muscles. Okay. She wants him to be able to make a lot of money. Okay. These are all her requests. Okay. Or then, okay, if the man is going to be out making all the money, what types of things are you going to take care of in the house? We find out that Kirsten can't decorate. She can't make a house a home because she doesn't know how to decorate. Odds are, we're even talking about the fact that Kirsten probably hasn't even, that may not even be the apartment she lives in, the one that she showed on TV, because it was so decorated so sparsely. But she had a lot of clothes in there though. She had a lot of clothes in there. It could be that Kirsten lives with a roommate somewhere and she didn't want to show herself living with a roommate. Could be that Kirsten lives at home with her mom or her dad. Maybe that's why we haven't met family. We know that Kirsten is holding out on introducing all of us and Shaq to her family because what she says is not the truth. Kirsten is also trying to show that she's worth everything that she's asking for. Kirsten's asking for a lot too. And she wants you to know that she's worth it all. And the way that something's not, a person may not be worth it is if they show you how they're living now. And then you say, well, why do you expect me to give you all this when this is how you're living now? So she doesn't really want to show you how she's living now because then you might say she's not worth all of what she's asking for. Kirsten knows how to hype up her price. But I'm going to talk about this with Kirsten. Kirsten hasn't shown us any ability to do real housewife stuff. And I'm talking about a housewife that's at home all the time. I'm not talking about a woman who's working but also has home duties. This is what I'm saying. I'm talking about real women who stayed at home or raised their kids. What were the things they were responsible for? What were the things that they had to do? What were the things that they had to organize? Because staying at home with kids and running a household is hard work. And we find out Kirsten don't know how to do a website. She don't know how to do a logo. She's not resourceful. She can't take care of a plant. She barely knew how to mop a floor. She can't decorate. Okay. These are types of things where I'm saying, hey, if you're going to be taking care of a household, you should know these things. When he was entertaining and he was having his mentees over at the house, she went out and bought some takeout pizza and served it to the man out the box. She didn't even put it on a nice platter. She didn't even get no nice gourmet flatbread pizza from a nice place. She got a Domino's, a Pizza Hut pizza. She didn't get no gourmet pizza with goat cheese and some vegetables on it, or something different, spinach. She didn't get no good pizza. She got the 2 for $9.99, a special. Okay, when she was having that dinner party with the people, remember they had the dinner party? Kirsten didn't have no decorations up. She didn't have no ambiance. She wasn't even ready for the party when the guests came. We looked at the little setting, no decorations, no plates set out, no forks, no spoons, no drinks. We haven't seen her cook one home cooked meal since she's been on this show. Even Gina cooked some lasagna. Even Nicole made some homemade food or did something when they had their gathering. So Kirsten is talking about what she wants in a man, and she wants to be the arm candy. She's okay with that. She's okay being the stay-at-home mom. She's okay with being the mother. She's okay with receiving the push gifts. But yet, what is Kirsten doing? She's not showing these other things. So this is really a situation of all about really a lot of people having expectations of others, but do they really know what their role is in those levels of expectation? Shaq ain't bringing the money to have the expectations he has, and Kirsten isn't bringing the domestic skills and the other parts of marriage and taking care of a house and being a so-called wife that's going to be the arm candy or the one that's going to help elevate her man. She's not that. And also when Kirsten started talking about she doesn't want to move out of Tennessee. Well, no, you can't do that. You got to be willing to move. When you're not going to be the breadwinner and he's going to be the breadwinner, if you're that type of wife, that wife has to go where that man makes his bread. So you have to be willing to move. You can't be saying, I want you to be the breadwinner, but I don't want to leave Nashville. Yeah, you got to be ready to leave. You got to be ready to go where his career takes him, whatever it does, because he's the breadwinner. That's another reason why I say she's not ready for that life. She's not ready for that life. She's asking for it, but she's not ready for life. Let's take a look and listen to some of the things that Kirsten was talking about, and I'll tell you another reason why I don't think she's ready for that life.
Find us a home.
Yeah, I would. I've been ready to buy a home, but I just ain't never known what I wanted to do.
I'm definitely feeling some chemistry today with Shaquille.
But who's to say we're going to have kids this year or next year or in 5 years? These conversations need to be held as a married couple to evaluate what we want out of life and what we need to do to get there.
Okay, I'm going to stop it right there too, because I'm going to get on Shaq about that. Who's to say we're going to have kids this year, next year, or 5 years? Oh, well, I would. If I'm getting on Married at First Sight, okay, and I'm escalating the process, which means I don't want to go through 2 and 3 years of dating, and I'm coming on Married at First Sight. What I'm going to say then is, why would I want to not have kids for 5 years and she's 32 years old? 5 years. She's not trying to have no kids, start having kids at 37. So once again, what did you want? You wanted arm candy? You wanted Godiva chocolate? You wanted someone to run around the whole U.S. with you, running around with your careers, but now you're talking about you don't know if you want to have kids in 5 years? No. Unacceptable. Once again, a person asking for something and they're not really understanding what's needed for that job. And if you were married at first sight and you talk about you want arm candy and you want a woman to chase you around the U.S. for your career, to go wherever you want when you get a job, and then you want to say you don't want to give her a baby for 5 years to a woman who wants a family, absolutely not. I said this over in my review recaps of Ready to Love. If a woman wants to get married and have kids, she ain't on no 5-year plan. If you don't want to give a woman a baby in 5 years, and she wants kids, then don't even be coming up to the door knocking. Don't even be applying for the job. Not no woman in her 30s, maybe if she's in her 20s, but a woman in her 30s does not want to be hooking up with no man who's saying, I don't want to have kids maybe until 5 years. Once again, Shaq asking for stuff and not knowing what's needed to get that job done. Let's keep going.
I love the fact that you're talking about like seeing us living here and the kids running around. Could you see yourself buying a house soon?
I see it in the future.
That's definitely something to think about, because I wouldn't want us, staying in apartments and renting houses. That's like just throwing money away.
Well, you're the realtor, so you gotta, tell me when the, market is right.
Oh, it's right now.
Oh, well, when we walk out of here, we're not going to purchase a home tomorrow.
No, I know. We can wait till your lease is coming to a near end.
Okay, I'm going to stop this video right here and now, because I don't know when they got married. I think they got married because we saw this one scene with Nicole and Chris. And Nicole and Chris said that their wedding date was 7/25. I don't know if you guys saw it. She goes, oh, that's our lucky number, 7/25. So maybe they actually got married back in July of last year. But here we have Kirsten over here talking about the time is now to buy a house. Oh, no, it's not. No, it's not. And I can't remember what the interest rates were back in July, but I know they've been raising the interest rates a lot. Maybe they were a little bit lower back then, but it's definitely not now. Interest rates are higher than they've ever been. They're at like 6.875. Okay, they're very, very high. The time to buy a house may not necessarily be now. But I don't know if it is or not. But the idea that it is now, I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't necessarily agree with that. And we're going to talk about the practicality of that as well towards the end of this video. Because like I said, we ain't going to just sit here and talk, people. We're going to give some practical advice. We're going to put some numbers to everything that these two are talking about, because we're not going to make all our decisions just from our emotions and what we've been taught, and we grew up in the church and this is what a man is supposed to do, or this is what a woman is supposed to do. Because some of these things out here now, let me tell you, there is no romance without finance. And you need to put numbers to almost every decision that you make, including marriage, including buying a house. Because one of the things that we know, people who are in real estate, is that buying a house is expensive. It's a very expensive undertaking. And if you're not willing to stay in that house for at least 5 years, more than likely, it doesn't make any sense for you to buy a house. I'm going to say it again. It is so expensive to buy a house with all the other fees it costs to acquire a house, closing costs, loan fees, down payments, okay, repairs you may be able to do the house if you're not buying a brand new house, things you need to do to a house. It's so expensive. It's such a financial investment that it takes years for you to be able to get that money back out of that house so that when you do sell it, you're not underwater. And when I don't want to hear nothing about the real estate market is hot, houses are appreciating over $30,000 a year, it doesn't matter. $30,000 isn't enough on most houses to even cover the realtor fees when you sell the house on the back end. So what if your house went up $30,000? If when you sell the house, your realtor fees, a 6% commission, 5% commission, whatever you're paying in your state, is more than $30,000, then you need more appreciation, which means you may need appreciation of $100,000 to cover all the fees it costs to sell the house, all the fees it costs you to acquire the house. So a lot of times for your house to appreciate $100,000 or more, you have to stay in that house for a minimum 5 years. So when Kirsten is saying we need to look at buying a house, I would probably say to her, no, you don't. Because for one thing we know, you just married a stranger. We don't know if this marriage is going to last. You shouldn't be buying a house in 3 months or even in 1 year. You absolutely should not. Because if you don't make it and if you get a divorce, both of you will be owing so much money to get rid of that house. You would have another financial problem. That tells me that Kirsten doesn't have good financial sense. She doesn't have good financial sense because any person who knows anything about buying property would know that you should not be buying a house if you do not plan to stay in that area for at least 5 years. Okay? Otherwise, the cost to dispose of that home may cost you too much more money. There might be some people who disagree with me, but we're going to break out the Excel spreadsheets at the end. So be sure you stick around. But we're going to keep going on this clip. Let's keep going.
That's like 3 months.
Right.
I give it a little time though. Just met,
Yeah.
getting married, and purchasing a home, and then like kids and still paying for my degree. It's like I just want to make sure that I'm financially stable to afford this lifestyle for us.
As long as we, continue this marriage, you have to get us a house. You have to buy us a house.
I will have to buy it.
So I could say my husband bought me a house.
So you don't want to have no parts in helping me buy the house?
I mean, I'll be on the deed.
How does that work?
Oh, it works every day in marriages.
You been married before?
In other people's marriages I know about.
Okay, so this is where I'm going to challenge Shaq. I need to make sure I'm financially stable to provide this lifestyle that we want. Then you shouldn't have asked for the lifestyle. If you weren't financially stable to afford the eye candy that you asked Pastor Cal for, you shouldn't have asked him for it. You should have gotten with a girl more like Jalissa that was on there, that was a teacher, that was earthy, that maybe didn't have as many as financial expectations, and you guys could have grown together. But what Shaq wanted was he wanted the girl up here, but he wasn't ready for the girl up here. He didn't want to. Now he's telling the girl up here to slow it down and dial it back. Talking about, we maybe get a house after we have kids. No, you get the house before the kids. I am with Kirsten on that. You get the house before the kids because you wanted Godiva chocolate. Godiva chocolate says you get a house and then I fill the house with my babies. That's how Godiva chocolate talk. Now, if you wanted to be with a woman who wanted to build with you, then that's what you should have asked for. Because there's plenty of women who say, yeah, we could, have a kid. We can still have a kid, maybe in a 2-bedroom apartment, and then we can save and we can get a house. That's okay too. But you asked for Godiva chocolate, Shaq. You didn't ask for a Lindt chocolate, the one they selling in CVS, Walgreens. You wanted the expensive stuff. And now all of a sudden you want her to build. No, like I said, know what you are asking for. Know what you are asking for. Let's keep going.
Their husband bought them a house, a car. I mean, especially if I'm pushing out kids. Those are some good push gifts.
We can, Shaquille, let's save to work towards buying a house together. It was just Shaquille, no, you gonna buy me a house.
Yeah.
I'm just stuck on the buying you a house.
Us a house.
You said you. You said buy my wife a house.
Yeah. This is
Okay, so I'm gonna stop it right there because I'm gonna challenge both of them on two things. The first thing I'm gonna challenge Kirsten on is it happens every day in marriages. I know marriages who they buy houses and cars. First of all, you don't know all the particulars of that budget, Kirsten, so you might be a little bit wrong there. You might be wrong there. And he says, oh, you said I buy you a house. She didn't actually say buy me a house. She did say buy us a house. But then she did say behind that, I want to be able to tell my friends that you bought me a house. So she had two things. She originally said, buy us a house. And then when she came behind there, she said, because I want to be able to tell my friends that you bought me a house. And he says, well, shouldn't it be us? You don't want to have anything to do with the down payment or whatever else. Let me educate Shaq on a couple of things. And I also want to educate Kirsten on a couple of things. A house payment is really just one part of a whole household budget or the expenses of a woman. I have a worksheet that I'm going to go with over the end. I'll show a little bit of it to you guys right now. But when you start talking about conversations around money and let me pull it up. When you start talking about conversations over money and you start talking about, are you going to pay the house note, talking to a man, are you going to pay the house note? Are you going to pay the car notes? And a man says, I'm going to be the one that pays the bill. Be careful of a lot of men out here talking about they're going to pay for a whole woman, because a lot of men don't even know what a whole woman costs. They don't even know the expenses in that woman's life. A lot of men think, well, I'm over here paying my rent now or my mortgage now so I can afford a woman and I can afford for her to be a stay-at-home wife or whatever, because you know what? I'm already paying the mortgage. She can just move over into my house and now I got the mortgage paid. I'm already paying the utilities, the gas, the electric. So really he looks at that woman as she's really no additional expense to him because he's kind of paying those bills already. Shaq's paying rent somewhere. Somewhere he's paying some kind of money. So he probably could look at it and says, well, Kirsten could move over where I am. I wouldn't ask her for no 50-50 on the rent because I'm paying it anyway. So now that takes a bill off her plate and I can continue paying it. He's already paying gas. He's already paying electricity. He's already paying water. He already got a phone plan. He could put her on her phone plan. So what he's looking at is, hey, you know what? I could pick Kirsten up and it's really not going to cost me any extra money because I'm paying these bills anyway. But here's the problem. And here's the problem also with Kirsten is ladies and men. Men, do you know how much that woman really cost? Do you really know how much money she really spends on her life? Women, and do you know how much you really cost? My budget worksheet that I have, that I use in my household, okay, I'm going to share it with all y'all. And if you want it, you can also get it. Mine is a realistic budget worksheet. You see a lot of these budget worksheets and all they have is real big items. No, my budget worksheet is real. It's the real deal. Okay, because what it really goes into the stuff you really spend money on. And before a man starts telling a woman that he can afford her, he better make sure he knows what her real bills are. Am I hearing you? He better know what her real bills are before he starts saying he can afford her and she don't have to pay no bills. And a woman better know what her real bills are before she starts saying how much the man she wants to be with, how much he needs to make. Because you hear a lot of women talk about, oh, I want a man to make 6 figures. Well, even if he makes 6 figures, let's say he makes 100,000, we're going to put him right at 6 figures. That ain't enough sometimes to pay for some of these women out here. Some of these women got expensive bills, expensive habits, which means it's not always an option that even if you are with a man of a certain means that you cannot have to work. So Kirsten's over here trying to sell one houses a year and bring in what, 20,000? I really wonder how much are Kirsten's bills, and does she know how much she really costs to be a stay-at-home wife? But when you look at the budget worksheet that I have, people, I'm telling you, I got stuff on here like, what is your full-time job income? What's your part-time job? What's your side hustle? Because we all know these are the types of things people are doing out here now, right? What's your alimony? When we start looking at women who are divorced and maybe they still have alimony coming in, maybe they're women who have kids from before and maybe they're collecting child support. Does a check come with these kids? We talking about that over in Ready to Love. Does a check come with your kids, or do your kids come and now the new man has to pick up the bill for your kids? Or do you have a responsible ex that's paying enough child support so that doesn't become an extra burden to your new man? That makes a difference, people. That makes a difference. Do your kids come with a check? I'm looking at here on my income coming in, a stipend or grant. Is Shaq getting a stipend or a grant? Is he getting a stipend or a grant? But these are the types of things when you start looking at income coming into the house, these are things that you need to look at. And on the expense side, sure, we know about the rent, the mortgage, the taxes, and all that kind of stuff. We know about that kind of stuff. Sure, we know about the utilities, the cable, the electricity, the gas, the sewer, the trash. We know about those types of expenses. But what about all these other expenses people got out here? Memberships for streaming, for YouTube, for Philo, for Netflix, for Hulu. How much are your subscriptions? How about your gym membership? How about your Peloton membership? How about that personal trainer that you've hired to help you lose some weight? What about labor union dues? What about online dating subscriptions, software subscriptions? What about that weight loss plan, Weight Watchers that you're paying on every single month? What about these expenses? Is that man going to pay for that too? Is he picking up those tabs? See, this is what I'm saying. This is why I itemize my deductions. So when someone comes to me and says, I can afford you, or which one of these bills can you afford? Because you may not be able to pick up all my bills. You may be able to pick up some of them, but you may not be able to pick up all of them. So you may not actually be coming to the table paying all my bills. And that's okay. It may be okay. But don't come thinking you are. Don't come thinking you are. What about a car payments? Is your car paid for, or do you lease your car? Are you leasing your car so you got a car payment all the time forever and ever? Or have you paid for your car outright so now that you don't have a car payment? What about these types of bills? Getting your car washed. Are you going to wash it outside in front of the house, or are you going to take it to a car wash? What about tolls, bridges, easy passes? These are the real bills that come into a household. How about Uber and Lyft? How much am I spending on that? Car registration, a parking, public transportation, a subway pass, a bus pass, or whatever kind of way it takes me to get to work or not to work or whatever I'm doing. Food, groceries, a Grubhub. We're not talking about just going out. We're talking about in the house. Takeout, lunch at work, whether you go or not. Coffee, you getting Starbucks every single day? That's a bill. That's a bill. What about entertainment? Going out. What about that weed you like to buy? What about that medical marijuana? What about the alcohol you like to be? Do you like Top Shelf? Do you like Casamigos vodka? You like to buy a bottle a month? You like to spend $50 a month on a bottle of Casamigos or a Blue Azul tequila? Is that what you're spending on, $100 and something? Those are expensive. When someone tells you they're ready to pay your bills, let them know how much it costs. Let them know how much it costs to pay all my bills, because you may not be ready for me. What about child care, child expenses? Is your child in after school events? Is your child in private school? Do you have fundraisers that you got to pay for? What about diapers and baby formula? Do you like organic food for your baby? You buying high-end baby food for your baby? School lunches. What about your child? Do they need some after-school tutoring? You got to pay for a tutor. What about allowance? You giving your child an allowance every single week? These are expenses. And before a man decides he's going to take on a woman, he better know what her expenses are, because then that can decide whether or not he can afford her or not, whether or not he can afford to keep her at home, or whether or not she's going to have to work. And if she does have to work, will she need a full-time job, or will she need a part-time job? Or are you going to ask her to say, I want you, Miss Lady, to make your life fit my budget. Because that's what a lot of men do too. A lot of men say, I can afford you to stay at home. But what they want you to do is they really want you to decrease your expenses so that you fit into his budget. That may be okay. It absolutely may be okay, but you got to agree to that. You got to know what your expenses are. So this is the type of budget I actually recommend that all these people sit down and go over. Every single couple are married at first sight. Know what you're getting into, know what's going on, and know what really are the expectations of each other, and know if what you're talking about is realistic or not. What about your debt? He talks about student loan debt. Well, how much do you owe? How much do you pay every month? What about credit cards and personal loans, business loans? Gina over here starting a whole new business. Did she pay cash for all that? Probably not. She probably got some business loans. How much are your business loans? Does she have student loans and business loans? You know what? Clint better find out. Clint better ask, because when Clint's talking about he wants to travel around the world and have fun, maybe one of the reasons why Gina doesn't have a lot of fun is because she ain't got no money for fun, because all her money is going into building her business, paying her business loans. You better sit down with this budget, married at first sight people. How about the bank and checking fees that you paying every single month? How about insurance, a medical, dental, a life? I told y'all this video ain't going to be just about talking. It's going to be education, because I'm realizing a lot of people don't have the education to even say some of the things that they saying, and they don't have the education to even have some of the expectations that they have. When people are asking you, I want a man to pay my bills, do they even know how much they cost to tell a man, hey, this is my monthly bill. Can you afford me? Okay, we're not even down into these other expenses: pets, pet food, pet care, veterinarian. You got Chris over here with 2 dogs. You got Jasmine over here with 14 puppies. You know how much her vet bill must be for those pets and dogs, those shots. Somebody tells me she's selling them puppies for $1,400. I was like, dang, that's a lot of money. But when you add up probably how many shots she's got to get for all those pets, how much pet care and pet food and veterinarian bills she's got to pay, then guess what? Maybe it's not that expensive to pay that much for that dog. Maybe it isn't that much. Maybe the pet bills and then pet fees are expensive. This would be something that if Jasmine and Eris were to be together, he need to sit down and talk to her about, because let me tell you, that's a major expense. Chris as well, he got 2 dogs. Dogs are expensive. Sometimes dogs are more expensive than kids. When you meet a person and they got 2 dogs, that's a bill. That's a bill, and you better get some details on how much they spend on their dogs, because sometimes that might be as much as you spend on some other parts of your life. A vacation, you go on vacation every year, or you want to go, how much do you spend a month? Right? You may not go every month, you may go once a year, but if you spending $2,000 once a year on a vacation, or $3,000 or $4,000 once a year on a vacation, when you spread that all over a month, that's basically you putting into a savings of $300 a month. If you want to go on vacation at the end of the year that costs $4,000 just for you, then you need to be putting away $300 a month. You better put that on here. You better put that on the budget of how much you really cost. Don't leave it off your budget, because it's real. Because then when a man says he could take care of you and keep you at home, he ain't included that vacation in it. He's talking about you can come live at my place and it don't cost him nothing extra. But can he pay for these vacations? What about Christmas gifts? What about charitable organizations you belong to? Shaq over here talking about he's a member of this fraternity. They got dues. I'm sure they got dues. I don't know how much he pays in them. I'm sure they got black tie affairs he needs to go to on a regular basis. Them tickets is expensive. I'm quite sure black tie affairs with these fraternities and sororities are costing $100 or more. Dues, I'm sure he's got to pay something of that. What about fundraising? What about donations, birthday gifts? How much you spending on that? You got nieces and nephews, mothers and daddies. How much you spending on Mother's Day for them, Father's Day for them? How much is that costing you? These are real bills, people. How about personal care, clothing, shoes, hair? I'm not talking about just going to a hair salon. Sure, you got that. But what about products you got to buy for your hair? Anybody out here who wears a natural hair like I do? Okay, natural hair products, the right shampoo, the right conditioner, the right cream to get our edges good. Me, I got to buy hair dye for my hair to dye this gray when it gets too crazy. That costs money. Nails. I don't do nails every single week because I work in the garden a lot, and I realized that wasn't good for me. But you know what? I got press-on nails. When I get ready to go out, I sure do go buy me some press-on nails and get my glue and press them on and look good. But yeah, do I wear them every day? No, but some women do. Some women go get their nails done every single week, every single month, every 2 weeks, and it ain't cheap. That's a bill. What about Botox, fillers, eyebrows? Look at Gina. Gina got lip fillers. She got Botox. She got liposuction. That's a bill. We want to know why she ain't got no fun? Because you know what? Gina got some bills out there. Can Clit afford that? A birth control, feminine hygiene. Women, how much you spending out there on a feminine hygiene? I done gone through the process, so I ain't got no more bill. Thank goodness. But I done gone through the process already. Home decoration. I know that Kirsten ain't decorating no home, so she may not really know how much it costs, but it's expensive. It's expensive to furnish your home. It's expensive to get decorations. That stuff is expensive. Housekeeping, cleaning supplies. This is the kind of stuff on my budget, on my worksheet. I'm going to make it available for you guys down in the description box or in the description box. You can click on it. You can get it. You can get it. If you don't got this type of budget, you ain't got no real budget. If you don't have this type of budget, you don't even really have no real budget. I'm going to suggest every Married at First Sight couple have their real budget like this, and they go over it. They go over it together so you really know what you into, a full on a transparency. But let's keep going on this little clip.
This is who I am. Keep thinking. Keep thinking. Let's think at home.
How are you handling things?
It's day by day because Kirsten have so much expectations for me, and it's like as a man,
like
she was showing me a property that she's over, and it was 2.9 million. And she was like, yeah, because you got to buy me a house and you got to buy me a car. And I was like, whoa, like we just got married, like we got to get past decision day. And when I say things like that, it's kind of like, oh shoot, like this man may not want to be with me, and it kind of like pushes her back. And I try not to, but I'm like, you know, I just want to make sure that we are planning for the future.
Well, I think she is if she's telling you to look for y'all a house.
Yeah, but it's so much expectation, and
well,
I think
I mean 2.9 million.
Yeah, I think the expectations come from her dad was always the bringing home the bread in the house and always being there. Like,
so have you been able to get that insight from her dad?
I haven't met her dad yet.
You still haven't met him? Does that bother you?
Not really, but I always had this imagination of, you know,
does
meeting.
That bother you?
Okay, so it does.
Okay.
And when Kirsten was talking about, you need to buy a house, buy us a house, buy me a house, I really don't care whether she says buy me a house or buy us a house, because the issue is, should they be buying a house not only in 3 months, in a year? And I'm going to tell you no. I'm going to tell you no. The answer is going to be no. Absolutely. I don't care even if he did have a lot of money to afford to buy a house. The answer is going to be no, because one is their relationship is unstable. His job in terms of where he's going to work is unstable. He just told us he got a job offer in another whole location, which means he actively looks to moving. And if he's looking to move within the next 2-3 years, he shouldn't be buying a house in Tennessee. And I know a lot of people say, well, you know, well, you could buy a house and then you could rent it out and move somewhere else. No, that's a lot of work. It's a lot of work managing a house out of state. I've been in real estate for over 20 years. I've always advised people not to do it. People don't listen to me. They do it anyway. And the next thing you know, they come to me talking about, I'm going to need to get rid of this house in another state because I can't manage it. I can't manage the tenants when it's empty. Yeah, you can hire a person to do all that for you, but guess what? They want to get paid for that. And so the next thing you know, you're paying someone else to manage your business in another state, and all the money you're paying them is wiping you out. And if that house isn't appreciating enough to cover all those expenses, it doesn't make any sense to do that. So I'll push back on that as well. You see a lot of TikTok videos, you see a lot of Instagram videos, people giving people all these tips about real estate, but a lot of it is just for show. It's not what the real part is. So I'm gonna get into a little bit into this. Should you buy me a house? And before you buy a house, there's some things you need to look at. And let's look at this Excel spreadsheet. I told y'all I'm an engineer. I know how to make a spreadsheet, and I got lots of them. Lots of them. So first of all, I'm gonna look at these things when you get ready to purchase a house. When you purchase a house, you gotta not only purchase the house, you gotta put down a down payment. You got to pay things like appraisal fees, inspection fees, a closing cost, which is typically 1% typically around 1%. Escrow fees is about 1%. You got to get a home warranty. Okay. You got to pay loan fees. Sometimes they call those points. Sometimes you can get 0-point loans. Yeah, maybe you can, but your interest rate is sometimes higher. Okay. Sometimes it's a fixer upper, but even if it's not a fixer upper, sometimes the new house comes with carpet. But if you want hardwood floors, you need to upgrade. Sometimes you want to put a patio on the back of that new house. It didn't come with a patio, so now you got to lay some concrete. That's money. So a lot of times you might be putting into the pot, even after you bought that house, another $8,000. You still got to furnish it. You got to put blinds in. You got to put some type of window treatments in. You know how much window treatments are these days, people? And you got to furnish it. I know Kirsten's over here living in a house without a nightstand, but that's not reality. You need a nightstand. So you got to know how to furnish the house. You see? So all these things go into your expenses, people. All these things go into your expenses. And sometimes when you enter all these things into your worksheet, sometimes those expenses are so much that even if your house appreciates, which I get into down here on the worksheet, even if that house appreciates $30,000 or $40,000, it is not enough to pay for all the expenses you had to pay in on the front end. And what you have to do is you have to stay in that home sometimes a minimum of 5 years before you're able to recoup the expenses you paid getting into that house. So you need to do the math. You can't just be talking out the side of your mouth just because it feels good, just because you saw it on TikTok or Instagram, or just because you saw one of your friends and their husbands bought them a house or bought them a car. Because your circumstances aren't like everybody else's circumstances. The house they bought may not be a house you'd be willing to live in. Okay. And here's the second thing. Sometimes the mortgage may be cheaper than rent. People say, well, it's cheaper to own than it is to rent. Not always. Because if you look here on my spreadsheet, when you get ready to rent, all you got to do is put down a deposit and pay, do your rent deposit, first month rent, and a security deposit. When you buy a house, you have to put anywhere down from 3%, 5%, 10%, 20%, depending on what kind of loan you got. It's a lot more money to get into a house. First of all, that means you need to have substantial savings. Okay. And then you need to have at least 3 to 6 months of mortgage payments saved up. So not only do you need to have the down payment, you've got to have another 6 months of mortgage payments saved up in your bank account. You don't need all that for renting. And then even though your rent may be cheap, say that your rent, let's say Shaq is over here renting right now for $2,500. And let's say Kirsten is over here renting for $2,500. So what she says is, well, you know what, Shaq, you should buy a house with $2,500 mortgage payment because you paying in the rent. Well, no, because not only will he have the mortgage payment, he's got taxes, he's got insurance, he may have HOAs. If he didn't put down 20%, he's got PMI, primary mortgage insurance. Look it up. That's anywhere from 1% to 2%. That adds to your monthly payment. He's got to make repairs on that house. He ain't got no maintenance man in the building to do it. He's got to pay for lawn care because he ain't got time to be cutting no grass. He over here mentoring mentees. So he could be paying a lot more in a mortgage than he is in a rent. He may be paying, the mortgage may be only $2,500. But he's got another $2,000 worth of bills over here. His whole payment, when you add it up, could be $4,500 per month. So when you're paying that much more money in a mortgage than rent, and you're doing that, you're losing money on the mortgage because your rent could have been cheaper. The only place you make it up is when the property appreciates on the back end, when you sell it 5 years later. You say, yeah, so what if it cost me more on the mortgage? But now my house appreciated $100,000, $150,000. So it makes up for all that, Deborah. It sure does. But guess how long you got to wait for that appreciation? Sometimes 5 years. I don't want to hear nothing about how the market is hot and these houses are going up 20,000. That ain't enough. A house going up 20,000 is not enough. A house going up 40,000 is not enough. A house going up 50,000 is not enough. It's not until you start getting to appreciation of 80,000 or 100,000 do you get into the area of being able to sell a house and pull money out and go forward with it and move on to another state. That's when you start getting into that situation. And I know all these creative financing deals. I don't want to get into all that because that's complex. And sure, houses are tax write-offs. Houses are tax write-offs. So you can write off those expenses. It does. It offsets your normal income. It does do that. So you start saving on your regular income. But oftentimes that's not enough. Sometimes you still are at a deficit. You're not as much of a deficit, but you're at a little less deficit. You see, home buying was different years ago, back when my mother bought a house, my father bought a house, they bought a house. My parents bought a house back when I was only 5 years old. My mother still lives in the same house. That's not how we live now. We ain't staying in homes for 30 years or 25 years. The old system where you buy a house, you stay in the house for 30 years, 25 years. By the time you reach retirement, your house is fully paid for. You don't have a house no more. That's where people should be striving to get to. But nowadays, young people, they move in every 3, 4, 5 years for a new job. They're never really even paying off a house. They ain't even paying off cars no more. So they got bills going on and on and on and on and on. You better, if you want to be a stay-at-home wife, you better be also looking at how you reduce your own overhead so a man can afford you. How do you reduce your own overhead to the point where a man can afford you? That goes back to that budget I showed you. But when you use this little buy a house or rent, you'll see that what Kirsten is talking about, that they need to buy a house in 3 months or a year, that doesn't even make no financial sense. None whatsoever. And like I said, this doesn't carry every scenario because I don't want to confuse anybody too much, because home buying and real estate buying is very, very intricate. I've been doing it for 20 years. Okay. I know all about buying a house and using the equity pull out of it to buy another house. But I'll tell you a tip. When I first purchased, and this is even prior to my marriage, I didn't buy a house first, because what I wanted is that if I got married, I wanted to be open to either moving into his house or buying a house with him. You know what I bought first? I bought a 4-unit apartment complex. I'm gonna tell you the truth. That's what I bought. I bought a 4-unit, and I lived in one of the units, and I rented out the other 3 units, and I let them pay my rent, and I stacked my money. That's what I did. I don't even suggest people buy a house first. Okay. I actually suggest that you buy an apartment building first. And I told plenty of people this, but you know what a lot of people don't want to do? I don't want to live in no apartment with tenants. Good. Don't do it then. Don't do it then. But if you want to do things that make real good financial sense, that's one of them. I say buy the rental unit first and then buy your house second. Because once you buy the rental unit and you got income coming in, that helps you buy your house. It helps you qualify for a nicer house. But once you buy that house and you get ready to go out and buy an apartment unit, they'll be like, nah, your debt to income is too high. Because that house you living in, it ain't producing no income. You living in it, but it ain't producing no income. But with the 4-unit building, it creates income for you. I'll talk about that in another video, but this video was really only supposed to be about there's no romance without finance. And if you really want a high-end woman, a Godiva chocolate woman, and you want her to be able to run around and follow you with your career, and you want your career to be the number one, you need to be able to pay a lot of the bills of the household, because that means she can't invest in her career in that city because she's got to be willing to get up and pack up and move. There are a lot of careers that work well with that. And you know one of those careers? That Jalissa woman, in which was on that video, a teacher. Teachers can get up, they can move, they can teach anywhere. Okay? Do they lose their pensions? They sure do. Because one of the things that teachers like, they like to stay in one school district so at the end they get their retirement, they get their pension. But when she's bouncing around from school district, when she's bouncing around from school district to school district, guess what she loses? She loses her teacher's pension. So it costs her there. But if you want to pay all the bills, it don't matter what her teacher's pension is. You got to be willing to pay those bills. And if you're a woman who wants a man to pay all the bills, or 50% or 75% or whatever you want, you better know how much it costs for you on that. What are your own expenses that it costs to run your life? And are you willing to do the things at the house so that he can go out and make the money? Can you cook? Can you clean? Or do you need now a housekeeper? Do you need a cook? Do you need to be ordering takeout because you can't save money on those areas? Do you know how to decorate, or do you have to hire an interior decorator? Because now you're getting up into big money. You're getting up into the big money where you want to be at home, but you also want a full staff to do those duties. You want a nanny, you want a housekeeper, you want a chef to come in and cook for you. You want to have all these other types of things where now he's got to make really, really big money. Do those men exist? Yeah, but are they plentiful? No. And do these people exist on Married at First Sight? Which is another thing I wanted to make sure I touch on. It's not that whatever Kirsten wanted is not possible, but we've been watching Married at First Sight now, some of us now, for 16th season, and I don't know when we even got a rich people on this show. So she should have watched and she should have known rich people don't come on Married at First Sight. She better go on over there to sugardaddy.com or some other type of media outlet to get the man she's talking about. But that's it, people. That is all I'm going to talk about in There Is No Romance Without Finance. Be sure to drop down in the comments and add your financial advice for these couples when it comes to just these two areas, a budgeting and a buy me a house, because that's what we're giving them advice on this week. Budgeting and buying a house. Drop down in the comments. Give your advice to these couples, because we're going to pretend that some of them are watching our videos and some of them might need this advice because the experts ain't giving it to them. That's it, y'all. Talk to you later. Bye.